What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. Got some news on Manny Pacquiao. Pac-Man Pacquiao. Got some news on him. He's going to fight twice in 2021. His advisor, Sean Givens, who's also the president of MP Promotion, Manny Pacquiao's promotional company, has come out and said that he will fight in April of 2021, and his second fight will take place in September of 2021. Now, both fights will be taking place with the PBC and Al Heyman. Okay, the first fight in April, the two opponents that are on the list of possible fights for Manny Pacquiao is Jamal James, who is the regular WBA welterweight champion. As you know, Manny Pacquiao holds the super WBA welterweight title when he defeated Keith Thurman. Defeated him, I think it was 2019. I believe it was spring of 2019. Don't know the exact date. He fought Adrian Broner, the Problem, in January of 2019, and then he fought Keith Thurman in the spring of 2019. So it'll be approximately 2 years when he steps in the ring in April of 2021 to take on the opponents I'm hearing are not Keith Thurman, but Jamal James, the regular WBA welterweight champion, and Mikey Garcia. Those are the two opponents that are being mentioned for Manny Pacquiao's fight in April. If I had to guess, I would assume Mikey Garcia will be the opponent. I think it'll be a fight that will generate a better pay-per-view numbers. Mikey Garcia has done a successful pay-per-view with Spence Jr. He's got a bigger name, a more credible name. He'll bring the Latino fan base who supports boxing in big numbers. And I think that's the guy if they're looking at it through a monetary value. Now, if Mikey Garcia prices himself out and asks for a little bit too much money, which I doubt he'll do, then they'll go with the cheaper opponent, Jamal James, who was a guy that will, pretty much take whatever Manny Pacquiao and his team offer him. He'll take that and run with it because he'll be looking forward to the opportunity to fight a legend, an icon in boxing, Manny Pacquiao. Now, as far as September goes, if Manny Pacquiao is successful, then they'll set up the fight between Manny Pacquiao and Spence Jr., provided both guys win their upcoming fights. Manny Pacquiao in April, and Spence Jr. is looking to come back in the summer of 2021. I would think he's going to have to, he could wait on Manny Pacquiao fight if he really tends to fight in the summer of 2021. But if he wants to fight a little bit earlier, maybe get his mandatory out the way. He's got a mandatory with the IBF. He can take care of that, satisfy his mandatory, and then look for a Manny Pacquiao fight in September of 2021. But that's the breaking news. Sean Givens, again, the advisor to Manny Pacquiao and president of MP Promotion, has come out today and said that Manny Pacquiao will fight twice in 2021. April 2021 and again in September of 2021. The front runner for the fight in April again are two opponents. It's not a one person that's seemed to be the odds-on favorite, but the two opponents that they're looking at are Jamal James, WBA regular welterweight champion, and Mikey Garcia, former multi-division world champion, who recently defeated Jesse Vargas in Dallas, Texas at the beginning of 2020. As he was able to knock down Jesse Vargas and win a tough competitive fight that took place in the Star, the Dallas Cowboys training facility. So those are the two opponents men mentioned prominently for Manny Pacquiao's fight in April. And then again, the only opponent that's being mentioned, and the guy that's the odds-on favorite to get the fight in September, provided he wins his next fight, if he fights again in 2021. If he fights earlier than his what he said after defeating Danny Garcia, that he was looking to come back in the summer of 2021. If he's looking to fight a little bit early, get one more fight in and get rid of the IBF mandatory, he would he could fight around the same time as Manny Pacquiao around spring of 2021, and then that'll set up the big showdown, the unification fight at the welterweight division between Filipino icon Manny Pacquiao versus the Truth, Free Smoke, Spence Jr. out of DeSoto, Texas. And that would be a much anticipated fight. Would it be the Will it be the changing of the guard? Will the torch be passed? That would remain to be seen. Or will Manny Pacquiao be able to turn back the clock and put on one more vintage Manny Pacquiao performance, similar to the performance he put on with Keith one-time Thurman? Well, he surprised a lot of people, beating a young, undefeated welterweight champion, dropping him in that fight and winning a very competitive decision win. Will he be able to turn back the clock once again, as he's a year older, really 2 years older, by the time he will take on the DeSoto native, Errol Spence Jr. Let me know your thoughts about Errol Spence Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao, possibly in September, and Manny Pacquiao taking a fight in April against Mikey Garcia or Jamal James. Now, I think both fights will be very, very interesting. I think Mikey Garcia will be the more difficult fight out of Jamal James. Jamal James, this will be his first real big fight in the spotlight like that. Fighting on a pay-per-view, fighting a guy like Manny Pacquiao. You would wonder if the occasion might get to him. It got to Tim Bradley when he fought Manny Pacquiao for the first time. And he had been in bigger fights than Jamal James has been in up to this point. So you wonder, would the big lights get to him? But Jamal James is a good fighter, solid fighter, but he's nothing special about him. I would see Manny Pacquiao beat him, unanimous decision win, or maybe a late stoppage over Jamal James, who gets hit a little bit too much, is a little bit too willing to fight in the pocket instead of using his attributes, which he has a great reach. He's a good boxer. He's a solid fighter. His footwork is solid too. It's nothing great, but he's got solid footwork. You would think he would use his attributes a little bit better than what he does. In his last fight against Thomas Delorme, he was able to beat Thomas Delorme in a very exciting fight, a fight that was fought in a phone booth. He didn't do a lot of movement. He basically went to war with Thomas Delorme. I felt he probably could have used his boxing skill a little bit more, but he chose to fight that style of fight. And that seems to be his preferred style of fighting. Instead of, he moves at times, but he seems to when he gets hits, he seems to be wanting to return fire and get caught up in those type of back and forth battle. And if he does that with Manny Pacquiao, who has power in both hands, that's going to be to his demise if he chooses to fight that way against Manny Pacquiao. Now, Mikey Garcia will be a totally different story due to his superior counter punching skills. He will bring some of the same problems that Juan Manuel Marquez brought against Manny Pacquiao in their 4 times fighting against each other. But the thing about Mikey Garcia is he's not active enough. He don't let his hands go enough. He doesn't throw his punches until he's sure that he's going to land those punches, or he's sure there's a high chance or a high probability that those punches are going to land. He doesn't like to waste a lot of punches. So Manny Pacquiao is going to beat him if he go 12 rounds off of pure activity, just throwing way more punches. And by throwing 2 to 3 times more punches than Mikey Garcia, he's going to be landing more punches. And he's going to be throwing the more eye-popping type of punches that are going to get the judges' attention and get the fans' attention for that matter. And I think he'll win the decision. Mikey Garcia will have to catch him with something coming in and catch him like catch him like Marquez caught him and was able to knock him out in that 4th and final bout. That would be his path to victory. But we will see what happens. We'll see what transpires. I'll break that fight down more in depth as the fight gets closer, depending on which fighter he chooses. Will it be Jamal James or will it be Mikey Garcia? My bet is it'll be Mikey Garcia, but both guys are in the running for Manny Pacquiao's return in April. And then there's only one guy in the running for his fight in September, and that's Errol Spence Jr., provided that Errol Spence Jr. wins his next fight, and provided that Manny Pacquiao wins his fight in April. Let me know your thoughts. And one more caveat. Now, one more caveat. I said this earlier. Errol Spence Jr. said he won't come back till September, so maybe he waits on Manny Pacquiao to have his, one interim fight, and then waits on that big fight with Manny Pacquiao and don't take a chance of fighting before that point and waits to summertime. That's also a possibility. But if I'm working with Errol Spence Jr., if I'm part of Team Spence, I would advise him to take a fight around the same time Pacquiao fight, somewhere in that same time, April or May, somewhere around that same time as Manny Pacquiao, and basically get that IBF mandatory out the way. Get that out the way, and then get ready to fight Manny Pacquiao in September of 2021. Let me know your thoughts. In September of 2021. Let me know your thoughts about Manny Pacquiao's fighting in April and September. Who you prefer him fighting in April, Jamal James or Mikey Garcia? and what you think about a matchup between him and Earl Spence Jr. in the month of September. Let me know your thoughts and hit the like button if you like the content of this video, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. I holla.